Why can I not read for more than 5 minutes? Why do I lose focus? And most important of all, why should I start reading? As an educator, a lot of people ask me, why should I start reading? But when I tell them that reading is important, they say something like, well, I can't maintain focus. Or the moment I start reading, I become hypersensitive to sounds, or they'll start saying something around, I start feeling hungry, or I want to drink water, I'm thirsty all of a sudden, so it's difficult for me to maintain focus. And then, why is reading important after all? Let's find out. So by now you've already heard of things like Elon Musk reads 15 books a day, or Bill Gates reads 30 books a month, or whatever the number is. But the best thing I could probably tell you is that when you're reading a book, the feel of it, the feel of learning is very different from watching a documentary or watching even listening to a podcast, or let's say, for example, watching a movie. You can actively translate these things into your life. You can begin applying what you learn from the book into your life. And for me, on a personal level, that has worked to my benefit. Now, another very important aspect of reading is what you're reading. So what I have done is I've categorized my reading into two different areas. So I have literature and I have self-help. So books that help me progress, and then books that help me enjoy and have fun. Both of them can be very progressive. So let's talk about literature first. So literature can help you improve your vocabulary, which could then improve the way you talk, the way you interact with people, the way you socialize. It also helps build your image. Again, people who have a very high social status usually speak very well. And then there are people who don't have a very high social status, might have a high social status like Donald Trump, for example, but talk like babies. People don't respect them though. I believe that the way a person talks or the way they use vocabulary can then be very, very important in building their image. Now let's talk about self-help books. Now, I'm a big advocate for reading self-help books that improve you in general, or add to the quality of your life, or improve your standard of living. I personally read books on philosophy, economics, which helped me start my investing career, books on counseling, psychology, and a lot of different areas. This actually helps make my life a lot easier than what it would be without reading. So by now you've already heard of things like successful people read and unsuccessful people don't. This is very important to understand because when you start reading, you start activating things in your mind, or not just activating things, but in general, understanding things in the society that other people don't. Now this gives you a competitive edge. If you're an avid reader, you're basically understanding things that people at your workplace aren't. Or if you have a business, you're understanding things that other people wouldn't easily understand. Let me give you an example. So very recently I read this book called Profit First. It's an accounting approach. And by reading this book, it helped me understand a completely different idea of accounting altogether. By doing that, I was able to apply it onto my own business and then make it profitable. So when you read, you access ideas from a lot more people rather than when you don't read. So when you read, you access a lot more ideas. You're able to understand things that people 3,000 years before you've written. People understood a lot more about things that you would never understand. So when you're able to unlock that collective pool of knowledge, you are basically a better person every day. So that's why I recommend reading to everyone I see. Another very important question is, so when should I read? Now I find that reading works for me when it's in the morning, and it's primarily because I read a lot of self-help books. So if I'm reading a book like, for example, Atomic Habits, I'm not going to learn much from it. Let's say I'm not going to absorb much from it if I'm reading it, let's say at 9 o'clock in the evening. But it works best for me when I'm reading it around 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, even 8 o'clock. As long as it is a part of your morning routine, it works best. But what about literature books? They work best in the evening too. I mean, for me, if I'm reading something like, Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or The Game of Thrones, it works perfect for me when I'm reading it in the evening. These books are very entertaining, so you're not going to doze off, and even if you do, then that's just another way of making you sleep. So they work best for me when I'm getting ready for bed. So literature in the evening, self-help in the morning. That, in my opinion, is the way how it should be. If you are someone who has very good concentration and your focus levels are perfect, first of all, you should not be watching this video. But if you're somebody who has good concentration, I think that you could just manage your reading whenever you want to, but time it. I mean, at the beginning, if you're not an avid reader, time it. Actively try to find a place reading into your schedule. So once it makes its way into your schedule, you're gonna make sure that you can allocate time to your reading. So how fast should I read? Now, this is a very, very important question, and I feel that most people are very misguided when it comes to this question. I don't feel that people should read fast when they're reading anything that's related to self-help. If you're trying to learn something out of a book, you need to take time. You need to absorb things, you need to apply them, and it takes time. But if I'm reading literature, I don't mind skimming, or I don't mind reading something like reading through something like Spreed, where it counts my words per minute, or I'm trying to read fast. At the end of the day, it's just a story and you're not going to lose anything. But when I'm reading books that enhance my abilities or enhance my skills in any manner, shape, way, or form, I like to take my time. I like to apply things. I like to make notes. So, summarized version, if you're reading literature, read as fast as you want to. If you're reading anything that's related to self-help, take your time. What I also used to do was I would take a book and I would have a goal. Goals usually help. So what I would do is I'd take the number of pages divided by the number of days in a month, and that would give me my pages for the day goal. Usually helps. I mean, as long as you have a target and you're determined that you want to complete the book, it could be very efficient. It could be productive to have a goal in front of you and then work towards that goal. So why is it that watching a video or listening to a podcast or watching YouTube, for example, or a movie is way more entertaining than a book? I mean, at the end of the day, a book cannot entertain you all that much because they're just characters. If you're looking at black letters, they cannot probably entertain you all that much. But movies and animation and all of those things can. So to sum it up, what you want to do is you want to try and build your focus, and you want to build it through experience. I mean, when you go to the gym on the first day, you're not very good, but with experience and with practice, you get better. And so does your focus. I mean, your focus improves with practice. On the first day, you can go through a page, 2 pages, 3 pages without getting distracted. And on the 10th day, you can do 5 pages without getting distracted. In a year's time, you could do 30 pages without getting distracted. So your focus tends to solidify and improve in general when you're experienced, when you're reading more and more each day, when you're working towards a goal. So at the beginning, just have one goal, and that is to read every day, and you'll make it. To sum it up, the best thing you'll ever do is to read only one book at a time. Don't try to download 15 books onto your e-reader, or don't buy 15 different books. Buy one book and have one goal in your mind, and that is to complete that book. Focus works best when you're able to eliminate all other distractions. So basically what I'm saying is you say no to everything else and yes to only one thing. So if you have a book that's currently lying in next to your bed, or if you have a book that is in your library, so if you have a book that you want to read, don't buy another one. Don't confuse yourself. Focus on one book at a time, get it through, and then get another book. Another thing that's very, very important is to make sure that the book that you're reading is important to you in some way. If it's a self-help book and it doesn't matter to you, chances are you're not going to concentrate on it. So rather than focusing on a book that is not very important to you, try to read a book that matters to you some way. It's going to add to your skill set, or it's going to improve your business. It's going to improve something about some aspect of your life. Maybe give you emotional balance or improve your habits. As long as you've got value attached to it, you're going to try and make time in your schedule to go ahead and read it. So that's what's important. What's important is that this book has some value attached to it, and you're only reading this book at this moment. And if that's what you're doing, chances are you're going to complete your first book. And if you already have completed your first book, then move on to your next. Have one book at a time that you're reading, and then slowly and gradually you'll have a building habit in front of you, which you can then use to read a lot more, understand a lot more, and then improve yourself as a result. right, make sure you're back for the next video because next time I'm going to be talking about how habits run your life.